know me, but I think you all probably do by now. I'm Mike Stepp, the District Governor beginning July 1 for the 2020-2021 year. Good morning and welcome everyone to our 6490 PETS training. We're calling it President's Effectiveness Training Seminar. Hopefully we'll give you some tools that will help you become a better the year in 2020-21. Really want to thank you all for taking the opportunity, taking some time out of your busy Saturday and be with us. This is great. Like I said, I think we were at 55 registrations here this morning. As you know, we were intending to do this training in March at Land of Lincoln Pets. That obviously didn't happen, so we've chosen to do this in a virtual format with training last week, training of course today, and a training next week. We'll do some goal setting. Like I say, we had 55. We got actually 22 president-elects. That's at least half of the president-elects for our district. And we have our satellite club president-elect on, as well as I think we got our Rotary president on as well, one of them. So today's session is being recorded. Our intent will be to place the recording on the District 6490 website. This will allow you to all review this session at a later date if you're not able to attend today or if you have to leave early for some reason. So you'll be able to do that. Probably everybody has had some working knowledge of Zoom, but at least on the bottom of my screen, probably at the bottom of most of your screens, is a chat function, a little chat box. And so if you would open up that chat box, you'll be able to chat with everyone, or you can do a private chat, I believe, with somebody if you want to have a question with them. You also can use the chat box if you want to ask a question of one of our presenters today. Jane Chamberlain will be monitoring the chat box and will help the individuals get that question to the individuals that you may want to ask that question of. So you can use the chat box, and if you want to try that now, you can type in your home club name in the chat box, and just to try that function out. As I mentioned, we had training last week. We had a couple of rock stars on our presentation last week. We had Bev Saltweedle did a presentation on leadership, and Stacy Jolly did a presentation on membership. There's also a polling function within the Zoom platform, and I thought what we might try and do is get a little interaction. And we came up with a couple of questions, and I think, Jane, if you want to, we'll start with a couple of questions in regards to the leadership presentation last week. Even if you weren't on the call, you can go ahead and answer the question, and then we'll give you a few seconds here to answer the poll question. And then you submit that back to Jane, and once we get a few seconds into this after you've done your poll, Jane will show us what our results are. Now I see some folks are putting their clubs into the chat box. Looks like we've got a great group.
Great representation out there.
Yeah. How are we doing on our poll?
We have about 8 people that need to respond, and then we're all set. I will end it in about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, I'm going to end the polling and let's share our results here.
Oh, great. What's that, what, 50% had a riveting experience with manual. Great. And we had 38% that's going to do it by the end of the.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, I'll bring it back.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. And the other 12 will be getting it done as well. Okay. I think we had another question.
Yes, let's go to this one.
Have you entered your membership chair into Rotary Year 2021 in DAC-DB? And
Oh, we're getting there. These are not trick questions.
no, they're not, absolutely not. Actually, Bev and Stacy both wanted to know if you had a membership chair in the system. Yeah. I guess we could have asked, what's DAC-DB, right? We could have.
Oh, all right. I'm going to do the countdown, fast countdown. 10, 9, 8,
Yeah,
7,
there's a
6.
question about the poll being anonymous, and you did make them anonymous, right?
They are.
Yeah.
Well, somebody told me recently there are no Rotary police. So
That is absolutely true.
we just follow the 4-way test.
That's right. Okay, a little over half have got a membership chair in the system, and we'll have over 80% will have a membership chair in by the 1st of July. All right, cool.
Awesome.
Sounds good, and that's very important for clubs going forward. So I think you had one more, had another.
I do. There's one more.
Oh, okay. Did you get a haircut this week? Well, where'd that come from? And yes, no, not yet, or I'm starting to like this shaggy look. Dennis, I'm assuming that will be your answer, right? Looking at the shaggy.
Do we have to specify which hair?
No, it's you know, if one or more. The only reason I asked that question is I indeed did get a haircut this week, as you guys probably recognize. It was getting pretty shaggy.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see how we did.
Oh, okay, Dennis, I hear you. Good job. All right, now I think we had a couple questions on the membership, so let's kind of run through those real quickly here, Jane, and see what the membership
All righty.
how they did on that.
Let's go with this one.
Have you used a club planning assistant on My Rotary that Stacy highlighted in her Rockstar seminar presentation last week? Okay.
About half have responded.
Of course, there may be a few that weren't on the call last week.
All right. I think we're nearly there. A few more seconds. Okay.
All right. So we've got about 23% have already done that. 39% will have it done by July 1st. So, okay. Well, that's, what's 40, 60 some percent then. So, okay. Good. I think there's one last question on membership, wasn't there? We had.
I believe so. Let me see. I'm looking for it in here. Oh, I think I did the membership chair one already, didn't I?
Oh.
Let me do this one. This was
Oh, okay. All right.
another leadership.
Okay. club committee chairs for next year. Have you got those established yet? Yeah, I believe Bev had talked about that one in her leadership presentation.
Right, we're getting there.
All right.
Doing good.
6% practically, another 25, 85% will have them done by July 1st. Outstanding. Okay. Was there one last question that we had for the folks?
There is.
All right. What is the hottest pepper in the world according to the Guinness World Book of Records? Hottest pepper in the world. Is it the ghost pepper? Is it the Scotch bonnet, Carolina Reaper, or the Trinidad Scorpion?
This is a good trivia question.
Right. And don't be using your phone looking it up on Google either. I think I see someone doing that out there. I should have. Thank you, Shaw. Okay. Ghost pepper is not. Ghost pepper is not the hottest pepper in the world. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the Carolina Reaper is the world's hottest pepper at 1.641183 million Scoville heat units. Joe, you probably knew that, didn't you? And the only reason that question shows up is because I grow the Carolina Reaper in my garden, and I give them away. I don't eat them. So anyway, Carolina Reaper, hottest pepper in the world. Well, yeah, it wasn't in the book I looked, though. It wasn't the Dragon's Breath. I should have said the one, I should have said those listed below, right? Okay, anyway, those are all the polls we have for right now. At this point in time, I'm going to introduce, well, we got a couple presentations today. We're going to be talking about the Rotary Foundation, and that will be presented by Mike Nowobilski and Larry Howe. And then we have a presentation on public image from Julie Dobski and her team. At this point, I'll introduce Larry Howe, PDG. Larry Howe is our District Rotary Foundation Chair. He is a member of the Arcola Rotary Club and has been in Rotary since 2010. Larry, if you want to introduce our presenter for the day, I appreciate that.
I would have. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to apologize to all the president-elects and president-elect nominees for having to cancel Land and Lincoln Pets. That was a very difficult decision. In retrospect, that was okay. As a PDG, I get the honor of serving in a lot of different roles, one of which is the District Rotary Foundation Chair. And for another 10 days, Chairman of Land and Lincoln Pets, and as an Assistant Rotary Regional Foundation Coordinator. And in that role, we, as Mike will explain, we exist to help those in the districts we serve in Things Foundation. It is my pleasure to introduce my boss when it comes to the foundation coordinator position. I work with Mike Nowobilski. Mike has served as a PDG and has served in a lot of roles, many of which are foundation related. He has done global grants. He has been a fundraiser. And as I said, he is my boss. And as I move on, thank you so much, Mike, for coming today and sharing something about the Rotary Foundation. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Larry. Well, as everyone knows, there is no such thing as Rotary boss. There's someone that maybe is a coach on occasion. But Jane, if you'll do the share screen, or do I do that at this point?
You're all set to go, Mike. You should be able to have that at the bottom.
So, man. Okay. Well, first I want to say to all the club presidents and president-elect nominees, you know, it seems like just yesterday that I was club president. I can still remember the day, July 1st, 2007. At that point, I didn't know very much about the Rotary Foundation. And one of the things that I want to do with you today is I want to talk to you about the Rotary Foundation. Primarily, I want to start with the question, why? Why promote the Rotary Foundation? Why support the Rotary Foundation? And what does the Rotary Foundation do? To set up my presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey that brings me to think about starting with the question why. And that is, in 2011, I took my first trip to Africa. I'll speak about it in a few moments, but it was Malawi, Africa. Saw things that I didn't know existed in the world. And as I was flying back over the Atlantic, a few weeks later, my left leg started swelling up. 2 weeks later, I had a diagnosis of cancer, tumor the size of my head. And essentially, I found that out 2 weeks before my first training for District Governor was to begin. So needless to say, I didn't think I would serve as governor. I didn't think I'd be around, but so kind of at a low point in January one Sunday, my wife was went to church early, and I was looking out my window. And as I looked out my window, I started looking at my material things, and I discovered that the sunrise was pretty cool, but my stereo wasn't going with me, my house wasn't going with me, any of my personal belongings. So at that point, I guess I was kind of panicked because I thought, well, so why was it here? And I put in my search engine, and this is the quote that came out. It's by Nelson Mandela, and I believe in this. And what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. So I spent the next couple hours thinking about, does Rotary provide this for me in whatever time I had left? And you know, my answer, to my surprise perhaps at the time, was yes, absolutely. So you might remember I said 2011. Obviously, that tumor did not kill me, but it has taught me an appreciation of especially the Rotary Foundation. So I actually feel privileged to talk to you today, and I hope that there'll be a few of you, at least, that I'll inspire. I mentioned that I went to Malawi, Africa, and indeed the child on the left is pretty typical. The children on the right are they're in a school. I think it's pretty obvious they look poor. This is one of the larger towns in Malawi, Africa. There's 6 cities, and then there's towns, and finally villages. I don't think my comments will surprise you when I tell you that the average person, or the average family actually, makes $1.50 US per day. So motorized vehicles, paved roads, all those things that we take for granted, most of them don't exist. Electricity is one heck of a rare commodity. So this is the environment that I had just experienced for the first time before I made that trip home. So while I was there, these are some school children at a deaf school. They board. They can't speak, but boy, they're beautiful children. So what did we do about it? Well, actually, this became my district governor project. We did an 89,000 global grant, and it impacted 4 schools, and as it says, 3,500 students. You know, one of those schools with 2,100 students had only 30 latrines that worked. So yes, we gave them water wells. They have running water. You see a water tower built to the left. But believe it or not, they were just as excited to have all these latrines that were built. And each one had 2 sides, so it's actually 80. Can you imagine how 2,000 kids would use those few latrines? On the left side, you can see the water that the villages would use. And I wish it wasn't true, but it is. That's what they drink. And just like we see on the National Geographic or the wild animal shows, how the elephants can't find water 8 months out of the year. When the rain stops, it stops. And you can see on the right, the celebration of putting in a village water well. That'll serve about 100 people. And the global grant not only took care of the 3,500 students, but it provided 40 villages with water. And I can tell you, we went back our 5th trip last November, and you wouldn't believe how many of those people came out in tears thanking Rotary for the water wells. And by the way, those latrines, they wouldn't open the latrines until the Rotary Club of Mizuzu came to formally dedicate them, and they had Rotary wheels all over them. And they drove over mountain passes, that Rotary Club, almost 2.5 hours. Most of them do not own a car. I was just going to briefly give you an idea. Most global grants don't have this much cash in it, but my club put up $3,000 cash to fund this $89,000 global grant. I raised, as I said, it was my governor project. I raised $27,000 in cash. So that's the cash piece, about $30,000. The rest of it was DDF, district designated funds, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and the World Fund. Maybe I should say at this point what the World Fund is. When you hear that half the money comes back to the district, that's where the DDF piece is. But on the World Fund, that's the half that doesn't come back. And so you can see that the World Fund essentially funded 1/2 of this global grant. And then like I say, I'll talk about it later. This one slide, I won't talk about financing projects anywhere else really, but this shows you the leverage that a single club can do, and most grants don't use that much cash. Another instance that I'd like to talk to you about is Larry Howell, who you all know, has been to, it's Heart to Heart does work down in Mexico. And by the way, your district, my district, most of the districts in the area support Heart to Heart. These are some schoolgirls. But what I really want to talk to you about is, I hope the Malawi project gave you a sense of the importance. because that impacts lives. It changes lives by providing water and keeping them from walking sometimes 2 miles just to fill a bucket of water with dirty water. And if you look at the top of this slide, what it says is global grants saving lives. I didn't say changing lives, I said saving lives. As a matter of fact, if you look at the picture on the left, every other person had their lives saved by a kidney transplant funded by the Rotary Foundation. That 1/2 of the money that doesn't come back, the World Fund. Every other person is a donor. The gentleman in the right, on the right that's speaking, he is a donor. Mexico has one of the highest rates of kidney failure in the world. Donor, his mother. As a matter of fact, that was the case in most instances. And so when you look at the people on the left and you look at the young man at the podium, think about the fact that they wouldn't be here literally today, perhaps, if your district or you as an individual did not contribute. To date, there's been over 700 transplants funded by the Rotary Foundation. I mentioned Heart to Heart, and Larry can arrange for a speaker. He's very passionate about it. Hopefully most of you have been kept abreast of just how much your district has supported this initiative. You know, when I was there November of 18, I don't cry a lot, but I did break into tears when the man on the right, the donor, gave a kidney to his son, the young man in the back. And his daughter is starting to have kidney issues. And when the man said that if his daughter needed a kidney, he would give his other, even though that meant that was the end of his life. It's hard for me to believe that in a country as large as Mexico, if you're not wealthy, essentially there are no transplants, there are no options, and there's almost no dialysis machines. So thank you for donating to the Rotary Foundation, even if it's a penny. Finally, when I was president's rep in North Carolina back in 2017, there was an organization called Alliance for Smiles. It was founded by doctors in the San Francisco Rotary Club. And they'll write global grants. They get doctors to volunteer their time, and they go overseas to poor countries to train, but also do cleft palate surgeries. Here's one of the beautiful children that helped. I'm going to show you another one. The Rotary Foundation maybe didn't save this life, but it definitely changed it. I think these are very graphic displays of my why and why I feel privileged to have the opportunity to speak to you today about the Rotary Foundation. You know, in your own district, pictured here is Steve Walters of the Pontiac Club. I remember the first time I met him, I hadn't written the global grant yet, and he was hopeful. But these few slides illustrate numerous matching grants under the old model and your district's first global grant. The total of the projects was about $180,000. And you can see for yourself everything from farm operation to water wells and science rooms. So thank you, Steve, and thank you for everyone who supported that. Finally, we go to Kenya. And there was a $116,000 grant. Pictured here is Carl Berkebile. And this is a 2014 project. You can read the quotes for yourself. But I'll also direct your attention to the sign. It's a little hard to see, perhaps. But there's multiple clubs, not only in 6490 that supported this grant, but also districts. Here's an ongoing, well, more recent grant, the Clean Water Grant, called the 2015 Mike Behan. And again, you can see this one a little clearer. Look at all the districts that participated at the bottom of the picture to the right, all the clubs. As a matter of fact, this is a $193,000 grant. And you know, in the past 3 years, this water well in the pump that was put in has pumped an estimated 53 million gallons of water. And finally, I think most of you know Eric Ludke. He's quite outgoing. But you talk about someone who's passionate. He's working on a new global grant in Nepal. And at some point in the future, I'm sure you'll all hear about it. Well, so what does the Rotary Foundation do that makes it my why? It funds projects. We've looked at some global grants. Now I want to look at some district grants. Excuse me, I'll look at project funding first. In 1 year, 2018, the Rotary Foundation approved 1,306 grants. And you can see that there are 6 areas of focus for some of you that may be new. But in that 1 year, they funded 283 projects that had to do with water and sanitation, 174 literacy projects, 483 disease prevention, 182 economic and community development, 102 saving mothers and children, and finally 82 peace projects. Pretty impressive. I'd call it service. If we look at funding by category, they did the $78 million worth of global grant funding. This shows you how that money was spent. $19 million on water and sanitation, 11 on literacy, 36 million on disease prevention and treatment, 10 million on economic and community development. And you know, this does not include polio. Let's look at the last 5 years to give you a sense of the global grants that the Rotary Foundation has funded. And by the way, there was 6,214 of them worth $414 million. Look at this: water and sanitation, 100 million. Disease prevention, 152 million. Basic education, 53 million. Economic and community development, 54. Saving mothers and children, 35. And promoting peace. It does why for me. This is in total, there were $778 million. This is just fiscal 2018. The global grants that we just looked at in some detail quickly was $78 million worth. There was 4 million peace centers. And we looked at your district grant, we'll look at your district grants, but there were $27 million that went back to the districts to be used on district grants. Other grants were 26. And look how much was put into Polio Plus grants, $156 million. I'm impressed. I hope you are. Let's look at, so what is a district grant? How does it differ from a global grant? And has your club received a district grant? If we were doing this live, we would do a response to every one of these. But a district grant, I think probably most of the participants on this Zoom call probably know what it is, but basically, and we'll see in a few minutes, the majority of the money that is spent that's given to the clubs as a grant comes from the Rotary Foundation. How does it differ from a global grant? Well, they're a lot looser, they're a lot smaller, a lot less red tape, but they can still achieve great results, as most of you could give testament to based on what your club has done. In 2018-19, your district awarded 25 district grants with a value of $50,000, individual awards of $1,100 to $2,000 each. And of course, then the club adds their own cash and their own sweat equity to achieve great things. In 1920, similar number, 40,000 was awarded, as well as 19,500 district funds, for a total then of $59,000. And again, the individual awards are shown. Let's look at a few of the pictures. These are projects that were undertaken by the Bloomington Normal Club. Looks like maybe a Habitat for Humanity on the left. You can see the playground on the right. We're impacting our communities. Here's a Danville and Decatur Club. See the climbing wall on the left. And I'm not sure if this is in India. It's probably either India or Pakistan on the right. And in my district, we also do, it appears that you do international district grants. We do too. In Malawi, we've built 40 bunk beds using district grants, put kids through secondary school because they're tuition based, etc. And I'm glad this, I was really happy to get this international picture. And finally, here's a couple projects from the Champaign clubs. I think the left one's called Healthy Eating and the one on the right is Buddy Bench. I don't know how well your district publicizes these projects and how much you actually share with one another, but it's quite impressive thinking about all the district grants that, again, are largely funded through the Rotary Foundation via the district grant. But now I'm going to switch gears. Before I do, I think what I'd like to say is I've given you a lot of examples of not only changing lives or impacting lives, literally saving lives. And as it says here, we need to prime the pump. Well, as I think about, for instance, I'll pick the cleft pellet, I'll pick the recipients of the water wells, and how it changes their lives. I'll think about the kidney transplant, the 700 that wouldn't be here anymore if it wasn't for Rotary's money. And I like I say, I feel privileged to talk to you because I'm hoping that you'll come to realize that every dollar is important. I know that some of the president-elects and some of the president-elect nominees may not have a great handle on the Rotary Foundation. So I'm going to today primarily talk about the annual fund. And by the way, all those global grants and the district grants, they're all funded ultimately from the annual fund. And of course, we have Polio Plus, eradicating polio. I'll briefly touch on that. And if time permits, I'll spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes on the endowment fund. Like I say, most of my comments are going to be about the annual fund and Polio Plus. Well, as a starting point, what I thought I would do, if you look at the colored map on the right, you'll see if you can see where Zone 31 name is and where Zone 30 is spelled out. I know you all know where you live, 6490, so you can see that district. And just to the east of Illinois, that's the dividing line that goes down to the Gulf of Mexico between 30 and 31. There's about 75,000 Rotarians in our two zones. So in 2019, in other words, ending June 30th of last year, those 75,000 Rotarians contributed $11,622,000 to the Rotary Foundation. And, you know, most of that money came in club by club, member by member, and most of that money came in by people that gave $50 or $100 for the year. So as a club president, I hope what you'll realize is all those examples I gave earlier, they're counting on you and they're counting on your clubs and they're counting on me. So the annual fund contributions by those 75,000 Rotarians was 7.8 million, Polio Plus 2.1 million, and the endowment was 1.7 million. Let's look at your district. Your district's very generous. I think, as you can see here, about $200,000, 220,000 seems to be about your average. And Polio Plus, $63,000. Looks like I have a typo there on the top. But you know, that's a lot of money. Here's your contributions of your district since 2013 through the end of April. And what you'll see is, again, your club donates on average about $220,000. As a matter of fact, during that time period, as you can see by the total, your club, your district's members, because the members are who make the contribution, have contributed $1.5 million to the annual fund. And again, about half of that is funding international global grants. And the other half, a big chunk of that is coming back to our districts, your district, as DDF that is used for your district grants. And finally, Polio Plus. You've generously donated about $400,000 or about $60,000 a year. So the first thing I'll say is thank you to your leadership, including and most importantly, club presidents, and to anyone who's donated. Just think about those projects that that are important to me. Also, the great projects that are done in your communities, and the ones that your Rotarians have done in Zambia and Kenya and Nepal. And just think, some of your money ended up on those projects. I'd like to talk to you next. And again, I apologize that we can't do this in person. I'd love to do it that way. I want to talk to you a little bit about polio. And I want to start by, you know, a few years ago, I had a change of heart. I was a polio fundraiser for years in the district. And so I can tell you that, you know, what would my spin be? In 1985, there were 350,000 cases of polio in the world striking children. That's one case every 90 seconds. And I actually had that pitch right there to where it was about 90 seconds. And I would say, so in the time I uttered those words, a child was stricken with polio. And at the time, there was 4 endemic countries. Now we're down to 2. What does that mean? That means the wild polio virus is still attacking the children. And I don't use the word attacking. And every year there's a few more cases. You know, like maybe there'll be 20 or 50 or 100. And of course, with Pakistan and India, I mean, Pakistan and Afghanistan being the 2 endemic countries, and they're at war and have the Taliban and everything. It's a little rough. And, you know, it'll take a while. But I got to tell you what I'm really excited about. The first bullet point on this slide, 19 million children walk today. And you know, when this started, the World Health Organization, CDC, our other partners, they all thought we couldn't do it, so none of them wanted anything to do with it. My wife is our Polio Plus chair now, and she has a video, and here's what it shows. Rotarians in 1988 were trying to raise $100 million so they could launch the program. They thought they could get the job done for $100 million total. Well, they raised $200 million. So they were off to a great start. But think of that. And what I've thought about is, okay, we haven't whipped this thing yet. But I think that maybe one of my own pennies, maybe some money that someone that gave because I asked them to, maybe one kid would be among those 19 million. And you know what? I'd give every penny again, and I'd make every trip again, and I'd give every speech again. So for anyone who has contributed to Polio Plus, a sincere thank you. We're not done. Hundreds of millions of children have to be immunized every year. Costs, you know, in excess of $500 million every year.
Mike, I have a question in the chat.
Okay, what is it?
Does anyone have the amount, the cost per dose of a polio vaccination?
Okay,
Mike, I just looked this up.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just looked this up because I first want to tell you the cost of polio vaccine is minimal, but that's not the whole cost. You got to get that dose to the child, and that requires vehicles, and that requires people, trained people to go into dangerous countries, which means security. So in India, the average cost per child is estimated to be about $29. The vaccine is only about $2 of that. The rest is getting that vaccine into that child's mouth, into that bloodstream. So that's the average cost. Good question, everybody. Good question.
Yeah, when I used to go around, I would say that the vaccine itself, you know, a little inflation, was $1, excluding the delivery costs and all that. I'm talking about what was the cost of the vaccine. And so it was very easy. So if you gave $50, even back then, I'll talk here about the Gates match. So that was if I used to ask people for $50, and I got it. And so basically 100, you know, at that point in time, 100, that was enough money to provide the medication to 150 children. Again, I don't know if you know, in your district, how well you've publicized the Bill Melinda Gates match, but that has been around. I can remember going to Toronto for the Rotary Convention, and I think that would have been like 2013, maybe like 10. And that's the year it started, 2 to 1. So for every dollar you give, And by the way, it's capped at Rotary's contribution of 50 million. They'll put up to 100 million each and every year. And Gates has been doing this for 8 or 10 years. So, you know, he's very benevolent, and that's just what he does for polio. I can tell you that this year, as of about 2 weeks ago, largely because of the economic downturn throughout the world, especially in the US, so far we're around $40 million, and we've got less than a month left. And if we don't raise 50 million, well, Gates is going to give us double whatever it is that we raise. So if we're 5 million short, basically that means that we'll be 15 million short when you do the math. So there's an urgent appeal out right now for Polio Plus donations. I'm not putting the graphs in that up because you saw them earlier, but you might remember that the total that your district has given since 2013 is $402,000. Thank you. With the match, that's $1.2 million. And so using $1 for the drops, that's about 1.2 million immunizations. Well, hopefully, you're beginning to see the why, and you're beginning to feel very proud of being a member of District 6490 and Rotary because of the good that we do through the Rotary Foundation. But you know, you're going to lead your club, so I thought we'd talk about a few acronyms. So what's E-Ray? Well, that's every Rotarian every year donated to the Rotary Foundation. And this is a club designation, and actually a district could get it too, I guess. So if every one of your members in your club, as your club president, contributes, then you're an E-Ray club. Every Rotarian every year, on an individual basis, in 2018-19, 876 of your district's roughly 2,000 members gave, or 46%. Thank you. Sustaining member is a contribution of $100 or more. And during last year, Rotary year again, 696 members gave $100 or more. That represents 36% of your membership. And finally, the Paul Harris Society. If you're a member of the Paul Harris Society, and when you sign up, you say, I'm going to give $1,000 a year. And you get a nice plaque and a nice crystal and everything else. And I've been a member, my wife and I, for a while. But again, I did it because I believe in the story. Hopefully, most of your clubs have someone that either do or could believe in the story. But anyway, your district has 78 members. And last year, 70 of your members gave $1,000 or more. Thank you. So we covered E-Ray, Sustaining Member, and Paul Harris Society. Some more acronyms. You've all heard the term Paul Harris Fellows. And those are awarded, the first one you get at when you contribute $1,000 or some combination of contributions and points, up to $9,999. So once you give your first 1,000, you get your first Paul Harris. When you reach 2,000, you get your Paul Harris plus 1. When you reach 3,000, Paul Harris plus 2, etc. Last year, there were 264 Paul Harris awards. Thank you to the 264. I would imagine you probably have some in most of your clubs. Major donors. Well, after you reach $9,000 $1,999. Then you're called, you get a special pin and a special recognition, and you're called a major donor. And so level 1 is for individuals that have achieved the 10,000. And then when they achieve 25,000, they go to level 2. And finally, level 3 is, I might have messed this one up, Larry.
Yes, you did.
I think it's level 4 is the 3, but you can see the number of members. It's pretty impressive to have three individuals that are level 4 over $100,000. It's impressive to have 8 over 25 and 51 over 10. But as I said earlier, always keep in mind that a contribution of $50 makes a big difference. $25. And finally, I'll just talk briefly about the Bequest Society at this point. You include in your will typically or a life insurance policy, and and so level 1, you would have put in your will that $10,000 would go to the Rotary Foundation upon my death. You have 20 members in your district that have done that. You have 6 that have done, the categories are the same as major donors that have done 25 to 50. You have 3 that are at, 1 that's at 50 to 100. And you have level 5, 3 of them, and level 6. Quite impressive. I'm going to talk briefly about the endowment fund. And again, I wish I could do this in person so we can interact a little more, but rating your legacy, and this will be real brief. Basically, the idea here is that you plant a seed, it grows into a tree, and it bears fruit. So, as this says, the idea is if you give to the endowment fund, they basically spend the profits off of your endowment each year. And so, in perpetuity, you would be making a difference in the world. And as a matter of fact, as an example, and by all means, it's just round numbers is why I selected this. If a person made a $25,000 grant, and if it averaged 4% a year in earnings, that would provide $1,000 a year that would go to fund projects. And you can do the math at $2,500 or $1,000 or $10,000, it all works the same. But it gives you an idea that if you're financially able or willing, whether it be in your will, a cash contribution, insurance proceeds, you can really make a difference for many years to come. Larry, we work very closely together, but he has one of the most important roles. Actually, it's not the position that anyone at the zone level has, like myself or Larry, but it's in your district. And so what can Larry and his team do? Well, they can make a presentation to your club. They can answer your questions. They can provide information. I'll bet you if you would ask Larry and say, hey, Larry, every one of my members, and we're an uncontributing club, gave $10, but we don't know how to send in the money. Larry'd probably say, send me the check and I'll fill out the paperwork and make sure everyone gets credit. But thank you, Larry, for your efforts. So I'm getting ready to wrap up. And I'm back to this start with why. You know, as a club president, you're going to be a leader, and other people are going to look at you, and you're going to lead. And when I was district governor-elect, and Arlene can remember this because she was part of it, the incoming Rotary president asked every one of the incoming district governors to contribute to the Rotary Foundation before we went to San Diego for International Assembly in January. And you know, everybody did. So we had this really cool pin that said first class. And then there was a better class or some kind of class after that, but we were first. And then he said, as we were getting ready to leave San Diego, he said, what I'd like you to do is to go back to all your president-elects and ask them to make a contribution to the Rotary Foundation. He didn't specify amount. And just like many of us were laughing that today we would have all been, and many of us would have been in Hawaii for the Rotary Convention. He said if that year the convention was in Lisbon, Portugal, if you can get all your incoming club presidents to make a donation to the Rotary Foundation, I'll see to it that they all get pins too. Well, about 10% of the incoming governors, like myself, we actually got our incoming presidents to do that. And he felt it was real important because they were leading by example. So as a leader, what I'll ask you to do is to lead when it comes to the Rotary Foundation. You can do it by, perhaps if your club doesn't do many Rotary Foundation themed presentations, maybe you could ask one of the speakers that have done these global grants, or ask one of the foundation team members to come to your club, not once, several times. Hopefully with some passionate stories. And I know Larry has some, and Carl Berkebile and Steve Walters and Eric Lutke. I'm sure they would love to do it. Especially now on Zoom, it's much easier, you know, it's cut out the traveling. That's the first thing. Help your club members see the why. Lead by example. I know these are challenging economic times, and some of you yourselves may have lost your jobs or wonder if you'll be employed tomorrow, or your business. And we have to recognize that that's the position that the country is in, and many of us personally. But you can still lead by example. And ask your club members to, maybe they can't give what they used to give, but ask them to give something. If your club does not have a tradition of giving, and there are clubs in my own district, and I know there's some in yours, that don't give, start with the why. Give them a reason. And at some point, hopefully you'll say to them, I've contributed to the Rotary Foundation. How about next week you all bring in X dollars, whatever you decide that is, and we'll fill out the paperwork, and we're going to give to the Rotary Foundation, or polio, or better yet, both. You've got an important job. You're going to be a leader. I can remember, like I say, in 07, 08, I didn't have all the answers, but hopefully you've been given the why. I wish you a year of success. And I hope when we look at when Larry contacts me a year from today, he says, Mike, you aren't going to believe it. But I think a few people must have heard you, because we have some clubs that are giving, and some that even in the economic turmoil haven't given what they've always given. Maybe one club will give a little more. Anyway, I thank you. Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, I'll hand it over 5 minutes early.
We do have a question. it was how one of the president-elects asked how to balance asking your members to give to the annual fund and the polio fund.
Okay, excellent question. Let me stop screen share here so you can, whoop. So you can quit looking at my board. As it switch back, oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so let me burn up 2 or 3 minutes telling you a couple of stories. One is when I first started asking for money, when I was asked to raise money for End Polio Now, I was 1 year from finishing being club president. I had never raised a dime. So for anything other than in my own club. And I was asked to assist an elderly doctor who had been the Polio Plus chair for like 20 years. And it was the first year of the Gates match. So we were asked to raise $48,000. Well, I was the underling, so that didn't sound too tough. And I went along with it, and we had a pretty good year. Just before the next year started, when I found out that we had to raise $96,000 because Gates doubled his match, the terms of his match, then here I was, $96,000, and the elderly doctor, who died 2 years later, said, "I can't do this anymore. You'll have to do it by yourself." So you can imagine I was pretty nervous. So the past district governor said, go to the clubs and pass the hat. So I don't know, I had a bank or something. I can still remember the first two. I went to the eastern part of the district. I drove 2 hours there, 2 hours back, gave the presentation for maybe $20. So I went to another club in the same result, and the club president said to me, he says, "Mike, if you would have asked that worked out to $50 a member, the $96,000. He said, if you would have asked them, I know my club, I think they would have gave you the money." And I said, "Yeah, but that's a direct ask." And he says, "No, do it." So anyway, 2 weeks later was a district conference, and I made up pledge forms that said, you would immunize so many people with your $50 contribution. And being rather naive, I walked up to the district governor and I said, could I knew they had a polio speaker for lunch. I had never heard of the guy. It turns out it was Carl Chinnery, and he's terrific. But so I laid a place card in front of a pledge card next to every place setting. And after Carl was done, I made my pitch, and the sergeant at arms said, "We can't believe it. We think everybody gave." And I give a lot of credit to the district governor. I started passing out that pledge form every time I went. I would ask a club president, I said, "I'll come, but this is what I want to do." And they say, "Okay." And I went to one club that hadn't given to the Rotary Foundation, never had given to polio. And I said, "Can I bring my form?" And he says, "Yeah." But he said $10. I said, "Okay." So I went. Two things happened. As I was walking around the club beforehand, I had a lady who owned probably the biggest business in town. I didn't know it at the time. And when she heard what it was about, she says rather loudly, and everybody in the room looked, she said, "If I would have known that's what the presentation was, I would have stayed home today. They're so boring." So I said, "Well, if I called on you, would that be okay?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Would that keep you awake?" And she'd say, "Well, I guess if I'm talking." Afterwards, she walked up, she said, "If you have a few minutes when you're driving out of town, could you come by the pharmacy, because I'll write you a check for $500. The second thing that happened, all but one member gave $20, not 10. And I went back to the club where the club president a few months later said if I would have asked for more. I put the $50 out. You know, everybody there gave 50 except one person who literally walked up afterwards and said, Mike, I hope my $20 is acceptable. I can't afford 50. You know, a funny thing happens if you don't ask, nothing. And what I'll say to all the president-elects and the president nominees, you know your club. You know where you're coming from. You know your club culture. Be a little bold. And again, if all you're doing is saying money, but give them the why. And that's what I did. And somebody would pass that pledge sheet out while I was talking. And I was giving them the why. So anyway, I'm a minute over. My apologies. But anyway, great question. Thank you.
May I wrap up, please?
You can go right ahead, Larry.
Mike, that was superb. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I think everybody will as well. First of all, I could not stand before any person and say, please support the Rotary Foundation for what we do, unless, one, I gave myself, and I do. I put my resources behind my words. Second, I've been associated with a number of global grants. I've been associated with a lot of district grants. I am also involved in Heart to Heart, the Mexican partnership we have with the Heart of America zones, and you saw that map. The zones do over $1 million a year in programs in Mexico through our grants, through the 35 plus districts. We give. Your district has supported Heart to Heart over the past 3 years in excess of about $60,000 and about 6 or 7 individual grants, ranging from kidney transplants to cleft palate to other things. Heather Stoa is just finishing putting together a significantly sized global grant for the building of a science classroom in the Mexico City area. Substantial group. That's a club, that's a project that her classmates, her DG classmates, all participated in. So we put our resources behind what we do. I want to thank you all for giving. I obviously pay attention to giving, and we are doing well, but we can always do a little bit better. District Governor Julie sent out a letter not long ago asking for your support. So please support. I thank Mike for coming. I thank you for the time here, and good luck to all of you in your year as president. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Larry and Mike. Appreciate all of your comments today and asking the why to the Rotary Foundation. I see some comments in the chat. You guys probably did as well. I know Larry and Heather and those on the District Foundation Committee are more than willing to participate in club meetings, give you presentations and so forth. So ask us for a presentation. Were there any more questions in the chat, Jane? Or you're sure welcome to keep putting questions in there if you wish. I didn't see any more.
I think we're good to go.
Okay. Take a little bit of a break here from doing a presentation. We'll get to Julie here in just a second, but I know a lot of you are using the chat, but I had a couple of questions that didn't necessarily lend themselves to a poll. So I thought what we would do is, like I said, I got a couple questions here, and you might put something into the chat, your answer or some things in the chat. Jane will save these chats. We'll kind of consolidate them, and we'll get that back out to the PEs as well. So question: in reaching out to your communities, what are things your Rotary Club could do for service above self projects. So what are some projects that your clubs could do, in particular during this stay-at-home time, but anytime, that your clubs could do for service above self projects? And you can put, a couple of responses there into the chat. And a second question, as you're thinking about that and putting those projects into the chat, a second question: what kinds of opportunities are available for Rotary to make a difference in your community? Not necessarily through a service project, but what are some other make a difference in your community things that your clubs can do? Again, we can consolidate some of these comments and we can get them back out to the PEs. And because I know all the clubs are thinking about ways that we can work in the community and help support the communities, and some projects, fundraisers that we can be doing. So just, drop a few comments there into the chat. And I'll let you go ahead, and a lot of good comments there. Blood drives, yard cleanup, raking, heart-to-heart projects, working those. A lot of great comments in the chat box there. So now, one last poll before we get into Julie's presentation. I'll introduce her in just a second, but I thought let's another little interactive poll here for everybody, and recognizing that we are starting to kind of open up some of the areas in the state of Illinois to different activities and so forth, and thought we'd just maybe ask a quick question about that. Okay. Did you eat at Rob Dobbs this past week? And now don't send a letter out, about, this is an inappropriate question or whatever. This is just for fun. And did you eat out this past week? But did you eat at Rob Dobbs? And yes, and the food was excellent and outstanding. No, but I will this month. No, but I will by the end of this summer. Or some of you may not even know, what is a Rob Dobbs? So we'll see how this goes. Again, it's just a fun poll just to get you guys some interaction.
5 more seconds.
All right. A lot of good comments. Job fair, blood drive. Oh my. Oh, 50% of the people almost don't even know who Rob Dobbs is. Okay. I wonder who, Julie, are you still online with us? I wonder who came up with that poll question anyway.
I'm not here anymore.
What's that?
I said I'm not here anymore.
Oh, you're probably over Rob Dobbs getting ready for lunch. So at this point, I'd like to introduce District Governor Julie Dobski. She is our current district governor. She will be the chair of our Public Image Committee in the 2020-2021 Rotary year. She's a member of the Bloomington Normal Sunrise Rotary Club, and she has been in Rotary since 2002. So Julie, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about public image.
Okay. Really, I don't think I'm going to talk today. I can't follow Mike. So I think he did a superb job. Thank you, Mike and Larry. Thank you so much. And it's interesting because, with public image, it's telling your story. And I think we heard a great story from Mike, the why and all the reasons to give. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I hope that we can help tell that story, help you to help tell the story. I look at all the faces on Zoom, and I think to myself, I think I'm speaking to the choir. So, you know, please listen, just be reminded. I know that you probably, many of you may have heard all this information before, but I think it's good to be reminded. We've got a few videos, we've got some other things, and Liz is beside me to help me. And I do thank Jane too for some of the ideas that she's given me. So anyway, I think I welcome the presidents-to-be and the nominees, and I think it's so nice. It's such an exciting time for you. You've been chosen to lead and inspire some of the best and brightest in your communities. You are charged with not only continuing the good work that your club is doing, but also to expand and grow your club's influence and impact. As Mike said, I'm Julie Dobski, and I'm going to be Director of Public Relations. And public relations is more than just wearing a t-shirt or a Facebook post or an article on your website. It's a valuable tool that can improve fundraising, expand community partnerships, and of course, increase your membership. You know, worldwide, there are more than 2 million nonprofits competing for limited volunteer hours, for donor dollars, and other resources. Rotary has a great story to tell, and you just heard the story from Mike, but we need to tell it simply, and we need to be consistent. Now, by providing a clear, consistent image of Rotary, what we stand for and how we differ from other charitable organizations. We offer prospective members, donors, and volunteers a strong vision of what it means to engage with us. You can find all the tools you need on your Rotary website first. And now the Rotary website should be the first place you go to look for some resources. They've done a tremendous job in providing useful tools to help promote Rotary. And don't feel like we have to reinvent the wheel. They've done the heavy lifting. Take advantage of all their hard work. For marketing promotional materials, you will find all you need under Brand Center. The materials range from logos to fonts to brochures and banners to broadcast quality public service announcements and videos. The materials offer a consistency of look and messaging, yet can be personalized to your own club very easily. Your own club, even our own district. Now, if we speak, write, and design in one voice, our communication will sound and read and be undeniably Rotary. Using the materials provided on Brand Center will allow us to tell our story in a unique voice that is distinctly Rotary. And we do need to tell our story, just as Mike has mentioned. While many people have heard of Rotary, many people really don't understand what we do and how we're different or why our clubs matter. When we talk about Rotary brand, we are talking about the qualities and goals that unite us. We're talking about our vision, our values, and our unique culture. For those of you who haven't had the time to fully explore Brand Center, Liz is going to walk us through some of those items just in a bit. But as we all know, the overriding theme of our public relations campaign is people of action. Here you will find social graphics, digital and print ads, banner design, and templates for creating your own ads showing your members in action. And now we have a keynote presentation. And how are you going to tell your story? We're going to see 5 steps to telling a people of action story. Certainly an impact in our community. So we use these to help develop your own people of action story. What was your club trying to accomplish? Who is your story's audience? How did you or your club take action? What was the impact and what was evident that supported this? And how do you want your audience to, what do you want your audience to do now? These are 3 steps for creating a People of Action ad. You have to select an action verb for your headline. Choose an image or take photo. Develop body copy. And as you can see, the verb is end polio. And this is a People of Action ad that we took from another club, but it tells a great story. And now we're going to go to the Brand Center, and Liz is going to walk you through the Brand Center.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liz. So I am going to minimize this real quick, and I am going to walk you through just how to get to the Brand Center. So you would go to my.rotary.org. And you could log in on the top where it says sign in or register, or you could sign in and register on those red call to actions. And if you haven't registered, just make sure you register for an account. And it's loading. And still loading.
Okay.
And it's still loading, as you can see where my cursor's at. It's just going to take a minute.
Why is it loading?
It's just Comcast is slow today.
From here. It's loading from here.
Yeah. So you see my email address is on top, so I'm signed in. I'm going to go to Member Center. And there's online tools. And if you click online tools, loading, it will take you to Rotary Club Central, Brand Center, Showcase, Ideas, and Learning Center. So you can either go through there, or you go to Member Center and go down to Brand Center. And once you've signed into My Rotary, it's going to automatically sign you into Brand Center. Now here, we're going to go to People of Action. And we are going to view the resources they offer. As you can see, they offer logos, videos, guidelines, things for print and online. So let's go to logos. And let's download a Rotary People of Action logo. Click on it, scroll down and select the file type you want to download. I'm going to do an image. Saves to your computer. And now you could use this on any ad that you want it to be placed on. So now let's go back. Let's check out what we could use for online. So let's use a already completed Facebook post of People of Action. So this is Together We Transform. Hit download. And it pops up as an image because I chose the image file for it to be downloaded. Now let's see what else we could do. So I'm going to go to materials. Now, if you want to create your own and personalize something, we can find that under materials, create your own. And there you can see all that different ad types. So let's create our own People of Action Facebook banner. Click create. So it's preset and it gives us options: inspire, connect, transform, and polio. And you could use these as is. Or if you want to customize it, you could upload your own photo. So we'll pick transform, we'll go to custom, we'll click there. Please excuse that image that's already there. I don't know why it's there. We'll choose file. And I am going to find a People of Action photo that I have from a club. So I believe I have one from Charleston. Let me just find it.
It's
There it is. Paste past it, and now I'm going to go back down. So here I have a People of Action photo from the Charleston Club. I'm going to upload it, select it. And as you can see, it has the People of Action verbiage overlaying the photo. And now I'm going to scroll down and save it. And it's going to save to your templates, and it's also going to let you download it. So I'm going to name this Charleston People of Action Transform. And you're going to get this window where it says refresh your browser to continue. So let's refresh our browser. And I'm going to download, it's going to give you the different file types. I'm going to download a PNG, which is an image file. And there it is. And I am able now to put this on my Facebook page. So let's see what else we could create our own that we could personalize. We're going to go back to materials, create your own. And how about we do a brochure? So I'm going to pick, Rotary Club brochure. And this is going to give you a template that's customizable. So that's the front of the brochure. This is the back of the brochure. And now I'm just going to walk you through how you could customize it. You could pick a photo, or you could use a preset photo. So I'm going to change using a preset photo. Now I want to change the content. So I'm sorry, I'm going to change a picture first. And then here I'm able to change the content to whatever you'd want it to say. Now I'm going to go to the right panel. And here I would enter my club name, or anything you want it to say. Now let's do the back. And again, I could choose a different photo, or I could upload an existing photo. I could change the heading, the text. Again, I could change the photo.
She'll have to wait.
And I'm just editing. I mean, there I'm just showing you where you can make the edits to the text. Again, everything you could edit. Make it fit your club's personality. You could change the type of paper. Now I'm going to scroll down and save. Let's name it example. And again, this gets saved to your templates in your account. I'm going to refresh it. And there I could download as a PDF. If I refresh it again, hopefully, there we go. Now I can also download it as a JPEG or a PNG. All right, let's open the PDF, and there, and it's ready for you to print. So you could go ahead and send this to get printed, or you could print it yourself. Pretty snazzy.
Okay.
Okay, let me exit out of that. And now we're gonna go to guidelines.
I have to say also about this Grand Center, this seems like one time, we should be able to get it. I didn't get it until a couple times when you really experience with it. So make sure, ask us if you need help. We will be more than happy to walk you through it. We will help you make your brochure. We'll help you do whatever needs to be done. So don't hesitate to call on us to show you, between Liz and I and Jane, we'll all help you to do just that. And it is very easy and very personalized. So I'm just encouraging you to do that. So now, if you go to guidelines page, you will find even more materials, including brochures, videos, and event resources, including an event planning guide with great ideas. In fact, one of the ideas in the event planning guide is to partner with other organizations. That's very much things that we're talking about these days, is partnering with other organizations. There are lots of organizations that would be glad to partner with Rotary. And partnering not only allows your members to gain a new perspective, but it also allows other groups to interact with Rotary members. One of my favorite sayings is, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Events and partnerships allow the community to meet Rotarians doing what they do best, and that's helping others. Now, diversity is key to public image. Diversity of race and age and gender. To address the gender membership disparity in our district, currently we have only 33% of Rotarians in the district are female. Now we've launched a Women in Rotary initiative to increase membership and retention of women in Rotary, and to promote female leaders at both club and district levels. And I do want to stress, it's not about all female clubs. It's about a dynamic, that Rotary culture, it's about a dynamic culture where men and women work together to spread the Rotary message. Now, as club president, your club is going to take its cues from you. You need to be a leader, not a president in name only, but you need to be an influencer. And you need to be an influencer not only within your club, but within the community. We have pre-designed cards that you can hand out to prospective members, and even a postcard. This is a great postcard that I sent. I was able to put my picture in, as well as other women have done that. Even men can send it out, but we are women of Rotary. And it's all pre-designed. All you have to do is put your picture in, have a little note in the back of your of the postcard, and send it to a coworker or somebody from the community. Maybe you just met, a new business owner. So we're going to include these things in a toolkit that we're developing to send out to all clubs, which you'll see probably within a couple weeks. This also is a card that we created in our club presidents and our local area. And this is to hand out to prospective members. If you have a speaker, I mean, now it's a little different. It's not person to person, but just people you may meet in the community, to say, hey, why don't you consider joining Rotary? Here's our clubs where we meet, and it could be individualized to just one club. So we really like this card, and we intend to get it printed. And again, it's going to be in a toolkit that we're going to send to you. So, okay. Social media. I want to just point out a couple of the social media things. We had October 24th, we had a great celebration of Polio Day. The media came, they took a picture of it, and that's because they're aware of Rotary in our community. And then when this COVID hit, we had the Pantograph, our local news, call, because again, we are connected with the media, and they wanted to, they asked us 5 questions about what are clubs doing to stay connected during this, pandemic. So again, we had 2 nice articles. We've had several articles, so it's not just these 2, but these are the 2 we're highlighting. But we want you to know it's great to keep putting anything you can in the newspaper. And we're going to include that. Jane updated the newspaper list for all your communities. We're going to put that in the toolkit. We have phone numbers, but I think they prefer the emails, and that also is attached in the list. So let's see. Where do we go next? Okay. make sure you use the power of Rotary. Rotary teaches us leadership. It has taught us all about leadership and how it teaches the world teaches everyone about the world, as you just heard from Mike again, and gives us the tools and the networking to change the world for good. We lead change in our own backyards and across the world. Offer to speak at events and other functions, just again, as Mike had noted in his presentation. When we first began shelter in place, again, these are the articles that they asked us to do, and Rotary is top of mind in your communities. Make sure it's top of mind in your communities. It's about telling the story Rotary story over and over and over, because that's how we create awareness of what Rotary is. And that's how we get new members. Next. In media, there is something called the frequency of 3 principle. You should run your radio ad 3 times per day, times 7 days per week to get people to notice your message. Experts suggest you need to publish a print ad 7 times and a digital ad 9 times before it gets people to take action. As you can see, all these social media contacts, some of them I don't even know, but there's several out there. While the amount of content you need to produce may sound overwhelming, don't worry. Use the COPE method, C-O-P-E. It stands for create once and publish everywhere. You don't have to create new content for every media channel. Just as you cross-post to Instagram and Facebook, your press release can be sent to all media. And while that might seem daunting still, you can create a press release template with boilerplate verbiage, which will make the job easier. We have Instagram and Facebook all saying the same thing with People of Action logo. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the 4-way test. This is one of the goals as the year started, was to get the 4-way test in many schools in our district. Well, with the COVID coming on, we're still going to do it. We're just a little delayed. And it's a reminder for us all, though, to follow this 4-way test. And you can see what we have to show.
In the hallowed halls of Washington, D.C., the concepts of truth and fairness are often lost in the pursuit of power and political victory.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Victory. At the Rotary Club of Washington, D.C., we believe it is more important than ever to instill in the next generation future leaders, future Rotarians, the right values and principles.
Is it the truth? Is it fair? Will it help us make friends? Is it beneficial to everybody? Maybe not. Maybe will. Maybe both. Or you maybe don't have it, or it just can be there every day. You can make it every day and do it every day. And that's what Rotary is all about. Bye.
Say bye.
Bye.
Is more important now than ever to instill the next generation, future leaders, future Rotarians, the right values and principles. And I have to tell you, with the help of my director of curriculum at Little Jules, we actually helped develop a curriculum that we are sending out to the clubs also that are interested in putting the 4-way test in their schools. And as you can see, the 4-way test is very similar to what they already do in the schools. Think before you speak. So we thought these two went hand in hand, and we're very happy to share that with the schools. If anybody has any interest, but we are going to reach out to you. This is the tin sign that we had made. We have several of those waiting to go into the schools, probably, hopefully September, October. If not, we'll keep pursuing it until we can get them in. Okay. I am going to put on my governor's hat for a minute. And my theme this year was, we are Rotary, why am I here? Now, we heard today several reasons why people join Rotary. Every time you attend a meeting, you pay your dues, you give to the foundation, you are doing it because Rotary is important to you in some way. Why you are here is different than why I am here. But one reason we are all Rotarians is that at some point, someone asked us to attend a meeting. It all starts with the ask, just as a foundation. We've created some materials today to help with the ask. Like I said, we've pre-designed some of the cards and things you could send out to other members in your community. They're quick and easy to send out. I encourage you to use them, and in turn, encourage your members to use them. It's not just for the presidents or the nominees, it's for everyone in your club to use. These items will be included in a toolkit. We also have done a little refresh on the logo wear and have created some new t-shirts. Again, we've had several orders. I encourage you to purchase and wear, and hopefully your members will do as well. Now, as leaders, the momentum, the energy, and the passion begins with you. An involved and committed president will have an involved and committed club. Good enough isn't. Status quo won't cut it. You need to be growing, learning, and recruiting all the time. Presidents, it's up to you really to make Rotary a bigger part of this brave new world. People are always looking for answers. People want to do good. The more members we have, the more good we can do. Be people of action. And right now, I think we're going to introduce to you, I want you to meet our team who's on their public relations team. We have myself, of course. We have Liz. We have Glenn Harbin. We have Cheryl Magnuson from my club. We have Susie Tungate, Gibson City, Kevin Yance, and we have Phil Romano from Decatur. So we really welcome them, and they are all available for any questions. We've already met once, and we're going to continue to be as helpful as we can in the community. There's just a couple things I ask. Please consider a public relations chair in your clubs. This way you'll get things done. And also, if you have a Facebook page, make sure you keep it up. Almost every club has a Facebook page, and most all of them are doing a great job. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for all you're doing. And remember, we are here to help you, assist you. If you need help with the Brand Center, we'll be glad to help with the brochure, with the video, and we will encourage you to continue to go on the Brand Center. But I want to finish this with a video that we found, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Please remember, tell your Rotary story. Thank you. Wasn't that a great video? I just absolutely love that video. And it just really talks about telling your story. So we're going to put it on our Facebook page and make sure you share it. And anyway, if there's questions or there's comments, let's see what we have here. I don't know if they're for me. Oh, the 4-way test. Yeah.
Are there any, Jane, do you see any questions in the chat box?
Nope, just comments so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some great comments from everyone. Sound good. Well, I
Thank you,
appreciate
everyone.
Julie and Liz. You did a great job. Really appreciate the presentation. I guess you all might be wondering, we had 4 presentations over the last 2 Saturdays. You may be wondering why we chose these 4 topics to talk about. And between leadership and membership and public image and foundation, but I think it all kind of ties together that with your leadership in your clubs, and one of the things that we need, that Rotary needs, is the public image. Get the image out there of who we are, what we do, not only in ourselves, in our communities, and around the world. Public image can help us tell that story. That will help us in the membership area, more members to come in to do more good in themselves, in the communities, and in the world. And then that ties all into the foundation and giving to the foundation, so we can make those miracles happen in our communities, and in around the world. So those are kind of the reasons that we went with these 4 different presentations over the last couple days. So I hope that all works for everyone, and this will help you as you move into your new year, 2020, 2021. Are there any other questions, or if not, we'll go ahead and get this wrapped up for the day and move on.
I have one more poll that relates to next week's session.
Oh, okay.
So you think we did all right, Liz? I'm
Here you go.
Do you have your goals ready to input in Rotary Club Central for next year? Absolutely.
Just a few more seconds here. Let's see how we're doing. All right, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not yet, but we'll have by July 1st, and we're going to help you with some tools that we'll have for next week. Next week, our session will start at 10 a.m. and we actually have John Haynes from Club and District Support at Evanston. He's actually working from his house, but he's got a presentation to help us get our goals into Rotary Club Central next Saturday. And he'll also, I believe, we'll be talking a little bit about the Rotary citation and how that's set up for a little bit differently for the 2021 Rotary year. So next week, next Saturday, June the 13th at 10 a.m., same channel, same bat channel, same station here. John Haynes talking about goal setting in Rotary Club Central. With that, mentioned officers in DAC-DB. We got some, I'll re-mention some of the items from our calendar coming up. We'll be doing our virtual district conference sometime in October. We have the Rotary Virtual Convention. I saw a note where you can start signing up for the Rotary virtual convention now. It begins on the 20th of June and goes through the 26th. We have our installation of our district officers and district governor line, president-elects and AGs and all on June the 28th at 5 p.m. That'll be done virtually. For the PEs, I have sent out the link. I said June 21st, but it's actually June the 18th for a happy hour. You're sure welcome to participate in that with me and visit, and we'll have some questions and answers and see where we go from there. So that's on June the 18th, 5 p.m. And the PE should have got a link on that one. Yeah, so with that, I'd like to thank everyone who have taken some time out of their day on this beautiful Saturday for the training sessions with our foundation and public image. Hopefully you'll see you next week with our goal setting. Special thanks to Jane again for working the back room of our Zoom meeting and working up the polls for us for keep us a little bit interactive today. Special thanks goes out to Mike Nowobilski and Larry Howe for the foundation presentation, and Julie and Liz on the public image. Really appreciate all the work that they did. And as Julie had mentioned, if you need anything at all, just don't hesitate to give me a call, send me a text, send me an email, or anybody on a district committee. And remember, Rotary connects the world to open opportunities to make miracles happen in yourself, in your community, and in the world. So thank you all for being with us today, and have a great afternoon, and stay safe out there. Thank you so much. See you next week.